Hello, and welcome to Believe It Life Coaching with Layla Kiley, where I discuss all things related to biblical transformation. Not only do I discuss my transformational journey and the insights and wisdom that I have gained along the way, but I also like to share the transformational stories of other people and have them share the catalyst that sparked their change, the obstacles that they overcame, and the habits that they developed to sustain their lifestyle. So, right now, we have Greg Miller. This is a wonderful person who has gone through his own transformational process. He's taken personal responsibility for his spiritual life and has implemented a lot of disciplines that he will share with you to maintain his lifestyle. I'm really excited for you to hear his story. He has lots of great ideas to maintain healthy perspectives, maintain joy in his life. So I know that you're going to be blessed. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Layla.
Thanks for coming on and being willing to share your story. I'm really excited about sharing with people that are listening about Greg's world and kind of what it looks like to live the a abundant life in Christ. Because you've really developed a lot of disciplines and perspectives that are sustaining you now and where you are, and that's really exciting to hear about. But I kind of wanted to build a foundation and tell people, since I like to talk about transformation and transformational journeys, you have your own journey. So it's good to hear for other people to hear how you got to where you are. You know, where did you come from and what were the seasonal shifts in your life or pivotal moments that sparked some change? So, just to start, like to ask everybody kind of from childhood what your perspective was of God. Now, I know that you had said, I think that you had been in church some, or you'd had some exposure, but not necessarily that relationship. So, could you tell me just a little bit about that?
Sure. So basically, we grew up going to a Lutheran church, but as I told you previously, I didn't go through the catechism or any of the formal training that would go along with. So typically, my experience with God was simply what I saw Sunday morning, during church service, and then I don't want to say everybody puts their church face on, but it's like a
Yeah.
little bit before and a little bit after. Um, and that was pretty much my experience of God to that point. Um, I did spend summers on my grandparents' farm and went to church with them and maybe had a little bit more of an experience because of my grandmother, but
Hmm.
nothing that I would say as would describe as a personal relationship until when I was 14. I made a profession of faith, and I, through the four spiritual laws, accepted Christ. But again, still not really discipled or not really understood um,
So now,
what
does
that
that come
looks like.
about? Was that prompted by through a church service or?
My
It,
cousin, uh,
okay.
my cousin actually was fairly evangelical, and so he just asked me, what I understood about Christ, and it was really a point blank, just kind of one of our family visits. He shared it with me, but then there was much like this seed that falls on the path. Some seed falls on, good soil, some
Hmm.
seed falls on hard soil, and so mine was more of, accepted it, but then because of, trials or whatever, things of life or just not being discipled, didn't really, I would say, stick or go deep.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And you were so young too. I mean, 14 is
mhm.
pretty young for a boy if he's, and like you said, without discipleship, that's such a
Right.
huge component to
Hmm.
be successful. Um, so after that, okay, so that was pretty much your just a general exposure, I guess I would say, to God and who God is.
Hmm.
So then after that, things kind of shifted for you once you joined the military because after you graduated high school, you immediately joined the military, correct?
Correct.
And it was there that I think that you said someone kind of had an impact on you, or you started questioning or asking yourself, if I'm really going to be a Christian, then I think I should know the Bible? Or how did that come about?
So that kind of goes back a little bit to back when I was 14, staying at my grandparents'. I tried to read a little bit out of the King James version, so I read
Uh,
a little bit of Matthew, a little bit of Revelation, and then I was like, I don't understand this. Um, so then, when I finally went in the military, um, one of my I guess you'd call her coworker, but one of the people in the military with me at the command center, um, she was a Christian, and I probably just through different interactions, I started to think, well, if I'm going to say I'm a Christian, I'm at least going to read it.
okay.
What I don't know what exactly caused me to do that, but I got a copy of the Living Bible, which is obviously an easier translation to read, and I literally read it cover to cover. And that was probably one of the most dynamic, fascinating points of my life because I was having a relationship with God simply by reading His Word. And I mean, the stories were all fascinating from the Old Testament to the New
Mm-hmm.
Testament, and I still remember those stories to this
Wow.
day. So that foundation that I got uh, reading it, and I wasn't really involved with a particular denomination or anything at that time either. It was just simply um, kind of a calling, that tugged me to say, yeah, if you're going to say you're a Christian, then read it. So I read it.
See, I love that you're starting to, and you were what, 18 around or
18,
20,
19.
something
Yeah.
like that? Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to take personal responsibility for your spiritual life. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what everyone needs to do in order. You have to take personal responsibility, just like we do for our, our lives and financially, but it's also spiritually, we need to take personal responsibility for that. So
Right.
you're moving forward, you're starting to read the Bible, and you said that although you were developing more knowledge, you were learning more about the ways of God. I mean, that's kind of what we learn too as we read the Bible. We learn um, spiritual disciplines, I guess, too, but primarily we're learning the stories and how God interacts with people. But you said you still weren't being discipled. So you started to develop a foundation, but without the discipleship, life was separate from that.
Um, yeah, I read through the Bible, and if I fast forward a little bit, moving out of the military into college, I used my military benefits to go to college, and that's where real transformation happened. Because I was part of Baptist campus ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Although they call it Baptist campus, it's really an interdenominational ministry. And I had a very good um, ministry leader named Tony Oleski who discipled people through the Navigator program. So we did memory verses, we learned about prayer,
Mm-hmm.
um, we learned how to talk to God essentially through prayer. And that's where, and then we just went out and did ministry and service. So that's when things really started to become personal. And, at that point, I think I was attending a Baptist church and I made another profession of faith at that point. And, yeah, so that's when things started. And I
Yeah.
think I told you in the previous chat we had that I went through a repent stage where I felt like I needed to get rid of all my
Yeah, you said you kind of
non-Christian
went through a
music.
purge phase.
I did. I purged what I thought or perceived that things that I didn't think God would approve of in my life. So,
Right. So
um,
this was a bigger deal because you're developing some kind of foundational understanding as you were reading, around 18 to 20. You talked about you read the Bible back and forth. But now this is a big difference because you're involved in community
mhm,
and you have
that's the
people
difference.
around you. And I love too
Hmm.
that it was kind of interdenominational. It was from a variety of different people coming from different backgrounds, I guess, and
Hmm.
different kind of beliefs in that sense, but denominational differences. So, but you just had the church around
Right,
you, right?
right,
And you started hanging out with Christians and doing
right,
life together. And
right,
that makes a big difference. I think so many people don't have that opportunity or don't know to search for that, but that's pivotal. I mean, that's vital for
right.
a successful Christian lifestyle.
I think along with that, while I was in the campus ministry, I actually got to the point where I was doing youth ministry. Um, and I also did summer missions in Sarasota, Florida. So for a whole summer, I worked with kids right out of the military. It was very odd because I was trying to relate to little kids coming out of a military background. But I did see a lot of kids that didn't have dads at home. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, that whole period between trying to do youth ministry and seeing how tough that was in small churches, and then going to different church every week doing vacation Bible school. And so it was really the service component as well as
Oh, that's
the,
good.
the so I guess actually
The
taking action.
community and then serving others. So you had the community around you, but then you're giving back also
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
community and people around you.
Right. Right.
And it really does do something to you. You know, it creates a shift in you when you're serving people who are in need and
Right.
giving of yourself to people that couldn't give back to you necessarily.
Right.
So I
Right.
like that. Um, so one of the things, I guess, so we're kind of building to what has shaped you and started molding you into or a transformed believer, I suppose that we could say. So you're developing this. You've got the foundation. Now you have the community. You have some discipleship um, happening. But then you said, I think it's been over the last 2 or 3 years that you've really become more devoted and really kind of streamlined your lifestyle or your approach to sustaining your inner world. And so, what are some of the things? What was kind of the catalyst for that? Because I know we kind of continue on and we do life, and I'm sure you've been in church since college, correct? Or how does that gone for you?
Um, so like most Christians, your faith ebbs and flows, and you have times where you have a foot in the world and a foot out of the world is what I
Yeah.
describe it as. So I had, excuse my dog.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, stop. Um, the your faith ebbs and flows. But while I was in Atlanta, I spent 10 years there. I was part of North Point Community Church, and we had community groups, and
Hmm.
so they were. I don't know, we had 10 or 12 guys where you could be more authentic, rather than just at church. What's going on in life and how do you meet each other's needs and encourage each other and keep each other accountable. So I guess the accountability portion came then, and then moving forward from that, I moved back to Pensacola and still, had the ebbs and flows. I was kind of the happy hour guy,
Hmm.
eating hot wings and beer with the guys, thinking that was, and still, going to church off and on. But just looking around and seeing people who had, committed suicide or drank themselves to death. And I just decided that was not how God wanted me to live.
Yeah.
I was doing what the world does. And so I just started asking questions, and I started a goal setting program called Life Book. And I built my scriptures into my life book 3 or 4 years ago. And then I have to say that watching the Chosen series,
Yeah.
seeing how Jesus, a way to see him, that shifted me as well. And so I would say the last 2 or 3 years, or even longer, probably 4 or 5 years, started to shift to both feet with God, not just one foot,
Hmm.
um, and not following. It says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." So and there's your transformed word.
Right.
So by doing that, I started to look at just my home environment. I was kind of going away other places because I didn't like my home environment. So I started to focus on my house, and got
So this
introduced
is
to.
kind of where Greg's world started to really
Mhm.
kind of develop.
It is.
So let's talk about first, though, what are some of the practices that you have, or maybe these kind of blend together too? You're able to do this more because you feel at peace at home now because you've created this environment that's really healthy. But you have some real. You're very disciplined.
Yeah, it's called intentional living, and I my morning routine is it's probably pretty extreme to a lot of people, but basically I get up at 3:22, and
At
why
3:20, you
3:20?
get up at 3. I'm gonna highlight that because you get up at
Yes.
3:22 in the
Well,
morning.
I wanna get as much out of the day as I can. I
Yeah,
mean, I get tired earlier, but
yeah,
the so I get up, and I do my meditation prayer time for 10 minutes,
okay.
and then I, get in my life book, look at my goals and the principles or the scripture behind those goals.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been doing that every morning for probably 3 years, and I have to
Have it
say
all
it's
written out, kind of you're very intentional about everything that you do. So even just your future planning,
Mhm.
what the goals I have for the year or for my life and how I am.
Right.
So you review that every morning.
I do. I
Okay.
do. And I try to, set my day up and get me in a good state, in a good place, so I can help others during the day, so I can bring good energy, or maybe you say it, bring God's spirit to those you interact with during the day. So
So you
basically, I
get
do
up
that.
and you get up at 3:22, you do your prayer and meditation, you review your life goals, and
Hmm.
then what's next?
Then I get out in the gym and I move my body and listen to Christian rock music, and I do some
'Cause you have a home
stretching.
gym.
Yes, I have Greg's gym that goes
Uh-huh.
along with Greg's World. It has a sauna,
Nice.
and I do some yoga in there, and I get everything going, getting the body moving, and then as long as it's warm enough, Monday through Friday, I do what I call a sunrise walk, and
Okay.
that's where I really have deeper conversation with God. Um, and I find that being along the water, being out in nature, I can hear and talk to God in a way that I couldn't if I were in another environment. So I come back with new ideas, when I come back from that sunrise walk. And I talk to him. I try to be honest and open with God, and authentic. And if I'm sad or mad or whatever, I tell
Yeah.
him, just like you would a friend.
Yeah.
So,
And you
that's
also
kind of
do like confessions, don't you? Like you said that you say what you believe.
right. What I do before I do my sunrise walk is I do what I call a macro. I think I look up and I say I'm on this blue ball that's spinning, creating the days, that's rotating around the sun on an axis, which creates the seasons, which makes my farm possible, which I haven't talked about yet. But
Mhm.
the seasons are literally what make everything grow. And then I think about the moon rotating around the earth, creating the tides that cleanse the earth. And then I think micro, I think about the little microbes in your gut that you feed with fiber from the plants that heal your gut, your mind, and your body. And then I think point in time, which is my moment with God, like real moment with God. And then perspective, which is journey and destination being heaven, journey being creating a big, beautiful, abundant life in the interim. So that's how I generally start
So you just
that.
kind of review your perspectives of life and kind of where you are in the world also, and then
Yeah,
your
and it just reminds
perspective.
me of, if God can do all that, then he can take care of all my little
That's
stuff.
good.
So it's
Yeah,
my way of reminding myself that God created me and he created this creation,
that's
that
good.
all works in perfect harmony.
So it's
So
macro, micro, point in time, and then journey,
perspective, which is
perspective,
which is journey and destination.
journey and destination. Okay.
So enjoy the journey as well as the destination. You can have some fun in the process.
Right.
Um,
Now,
and
one of the other things that you'd said you'd done was as you were kind of shifting from your, I guess, hot wings and beer times, and you started also shifting social circles,
I
right?
did,
And you were
absolutely.
noticing that you didn't want to isolate, but so you started to come up with different ways to hang out with a different crowd, or how was that working for you?
Yeah, yeah. So when during my happy hours time, they were my only friends, and I thought, wow, if I quit drinking, then I won't have any friends. Good night. And I
Because
was
they were
like,
kind of like bar friends.
yeah, but they weren't. I say they weren't really friends. They were just drinking buddies.
Mm-hmm.
But I have always been health oriented, and when I started doing the farm, and I put it out in the front, and I started meeting neighbors, and um, then I started Pensacola Wellness Advocates, which is a group of wellness focused practitioners. And so, yeah, my social circle has completely changed to now, the people I'm surrounded with for the most part are, or at least my closest friends, even a pastor friend of mine who's starting a church. One of the values for his church is we're a people of health,
Oh,
which I
that's good.
love.
You're a people of health. Yeah,
Yeah. And so I just hate
that's good.
the mission behind the farm is to reconnect people to their food. Um, and the why is I hate to see people suffer. I love to see people thrive. And there is a path,
Mm,
meaning God gives us a path, which it talks about in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. So there's a path. It's just in America, we've kind of lost it because of the food system
right.
that we're in. And so that's my little way of, but I've met so many people. I mean, literally every day I meet someone
Because these are
in the farm.
like-minded in health and nutrition, like-minded in sometimes faith, sometimes not, I suppose, too. But you're just
Exactly.
stepping into a different, I guess, categories of
Mhm.
social circles
Right.
than what they used to be. People who are more intentional about living healthy, healthy
Mhm.
mindsets, kind of things of that nature.
Well, I think one of the other things I started to question is just like, Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I was like, well, do I know my neighbors? When I was in Atlanta, I barely knew any. Now I know all of my neighbors. Everybody knows me as the crazy farm guy who
The crazy
has kids.
what?
Crazy farm guy.
Crazy farm
Not
guy.
crazy. They love it. They love it.
Because well, let's talk about that because so part of this natural health you started learning about and I call it natural health but growing your own food and you've
right,
turned your whole front yard into a garden and now it's kind of bleeding into the backyard as well but
right,
so you are growing your own food and you've developed kind of a community garden type of system so people know your farm. Just tell
right.
us about that, I guess.
Yeah, even during my sunrise walks or all around town, my sister, everybody, they say, "Oh, you're the guy with the garden," in the front. And so I encourage people to do their gardens in the front so they meet their neighbors and can interact with them.
Oh,
But
that's a great tip too, in order to meet new people doing, yeah, your garden in your front.
do it in the front. They'll see you out there, and you'll get opportunity to talk to people. And so, like yesterday, I have days like that where my next door neighbor and her little daughter Serenity came over and harvested, and I interacted with them, talked with them,
Hmm.
and they pulled beets and things like that. So the kids get engaged also, and I think it's night and day different from the happy hour bar friendships to actual community, and knowing your neighbors and knowing when they're hurting or knowing when they can call you if something's gone sideways. And my neighbor called me this morning and her car had died and she needed someone to go. I wasn't able to help her in that case because I wasn't at home, but
Yeah, but you know
it's
your
nice that
neighbor.
but they know me well enough now. They know they can call on me if they need help.
And
So
so a part of that giving back or like you've developed this healthy eating habits, growing your own food, but then it is kind of open to the community in a sense. You've created like a community garden so people are welcome to, if they want to join your garden group or your community group, then they can come glean from the fields,
right,
right?
yeah, it's called a farm membership, and it's not free. I mean, the farm is
Yeah.
for profit, but basically, it's a $35 a month membership that I started this year, where people can come harvest fresh veggies and greens, etc., from the front.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely, and I credit it to God. I just credit it to studying His Word and taking, I call it the next 10 feet. Whatever I told my mom, my sister, and everybody, I said, just do the next right thing.
Yeah.
You may not understand everything, but you can take the next step. Whatever the next right thing is, do that because the world. I told my sister, I said, this world will chew you up and spit you out and not think anything else about it. But when you set your heart on God, but seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, all these things will be given to you. So you can't avoid all suffering. I mean, we all have suffering, but you certainly can avoid an awful lot of self-imposed um,
Yes.
pain and suffering, that we bring on ourselves. So certainly, I don't, I want people to experience. I think we can have an abundant life, and I think I'm starting to experience it.
Uh-huh.
And where the term Greg world came from was actually my sister giving me a hard time. She said, "Well, you just live in Greg world." And the first time I thought about it, I said, "Well, I guess I kind of do."
Well,
Greg
it's a
world.
great world. I mean, I've been to your property
I,
and you've kind of shown me, all the
mhm,
your gardens
mhm,
and things of that nature, but yeah, it's more than that too. I mean, it's
right,
your
right. So yeah, that's how that term came about, and I think that in a nutshell describes what the abundant life that Christ wants us to live.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean we won't have any pain and suffering, or there's things in this world um, that cause that, but you can certainly live an abundant life, and very different from what you see in the world. The world tells us you need big houses and cars and things like that to be happy, and all I need is some plants and some kids.
Well, I like what you had said before too, because, you kind of left the bar scene behind and the life that you're embracing now is fun too. I think a lot of
It
people
is.
think that when they start leaving their party buddies and life's not a party anymore, then that means it's dull and boring and there's no excitement. But there really
Right,
is true fulfillment that you're getting out of
right,
this.
right. Yeah, I learned to laugh again. I have to admit, you think I've seen people think that they can only let their guard down or whatever if they're drinking or whatever. But I've
Yeah.
learned to laugh, and I laugh just as hard, if not more. Just laughing at yourself, laughing at funny things that happen in the garden, laughing with the kids, laughing with the dog. So yeah, it's. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back to what I was doing. In fact, I look back and I was like, how was I so blind? How did I
Wow.
not see
Mhm.
that? You know. So anyhow,
Well, these are the effects of intentional living. So you're very intentional about putting God first in your life, very intentional about how you live out your life and take care of your physical body and take care of your spiritual life. So it's like you said,
mhm,
you have to just take the next right step, but have a plan also. And that's what I like
mhm,
about you've created your what is it the life plan that you were talking about. Um,
life book.
yeah, the book, right?
Hmm.
And you
Yeah,
use that as a guide to keep you on track. And I think it's so important because a lot of people don't really know or aren't developing healthy habits. And that's what it
right,
is. It's
right,
habits to keep you on track with where it is that you want to go. Because
right.
if we don't have that projected, then, you can go move in many different directions and not realize it. So this is really just a testament to your being very responsible and
Mhm.
intentional with your life.
Yeah, one of the things is just part of having a farm garden. I call it a farm garden playground. Is I do a green smoothie at lunch, and I literally go out and just harvest a whole bunch of different types of greens and put it all in a Vitamix and blend it up. And that's just a way to make sure I'm getting some healthy nutrition every day. But that is a habit. I mean,
Yeah.
my sunrise walk's a habit.
Hmm.
So you can absolutely put things in your life that don't cost a lot of money, that will help your mental state, your physical state, your spiritual state. You just have to develop the right kind of rhythms and routines. That's what I call
Yeah.
it. And get a dog. Dogs make you happy.
It's doable. And this doesn't sound like overwhelming either, and I mean, and you didn't start all of this all at once, but you just started with
No,
some small things.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
And this is something that other people can implement into their lives, right?
right. Absolutely.
And it
Yeah,
brings I can just tell you have a piece about you that resonates, and just a purity also, just living. I think when people who live in nature and are surrounded by nature and allowing I guess the earth to feed them in that sense and growing
hmm,
that really helps you just to connect on a deeper level, I think, spiritually too, and like you
right.
said, with other people.
Yeah, I think it's just nature. You think about creation, you think about bees and butterflies and all the things I have in the farm now that I never had when I had a weedy, grassy lawn. So now you see God's creation, and you see little seeds grow into big plants, with fruit and veggies on them, and so you're really reconnected to your food. That's why I call it that. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story and your lifestyle and all of your habits. I know a lot of people can incorporate some of those. Gives them ideas. That's what people need too, is just some ideas. How can I go about shifting my circumstances and creating that a different
And what
lifestyle?
every good podcaster says is, so how can they find you? Well,
Yes.
they can find us
Are
at
you ready to share that? I know that I didn't know how your
absolutely.
garden system was going.
Well, they can find us online. They can just go to um, pickedatperfection.com on the web, or on Instagram is where they can primarily find me. Um, I'm also doing tours on Tuesday and Friday afternoon if people are local.
You're doing what?
Um,
Tours?
Tours.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
call them Harvest for Health tours.
Oh,
So they
nice.
get a little health talk while they're actually doing the tour, etc. So
So cool.
um, that's how
Yes,
they
if
can
you're in
find
the
me.
area, stop by and visit Greg. I'm going to
Mhm.
put up some pictures too that I took when I visited, but I can't wait because it's obviously winter time now, but I want to come back and visit in the spring
Mhm.
when you have your spring garden going. But
Yep.
it's really cool. I mean, it's amazing. We were talking about how much food you still have growing right now. I wasn't even expecting that. We've just kind of had a
Right.
hard freeze, so I'm sure that put a dent in your crops. But
Hmm.
prior to that, just a few weeks ago, wow, you still had tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Right. Tomatoes and peppers and things like that. So, but they'll all be back. I've had times when it was so green and abundant and just thick that I was just like, it blows you away that you can do that in your front yard. So,
Yeah, cool. Well, sweet. Well, um, thank you so much again, like I said, for sharing and coming on. And I will put up your information so people can get in contact with you.
thank you.